Welcome to this digital Fireside AI chat that will touch on how the Baha'i writings relate to the writings of Erich Fromm, who lived from 1900 to 1980. Erich Fromm was a German-born psychoanalyst, social philosopher, and prolific writer known for his influential work on the intersection of psychology and society. He was a prominent figure in the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory, which was a philosophical and social research movement that emerged in the early 20th century, emphasizing the critique of society and culture through a blend of Marxist theory, psychoanalysis, and sociology to understand and challenge the systems of what they deemed oppression and domination. Fromm explored themes of freedom, alienation, and human nature, blending Freudian analysis with Marxist thought. His seminal works such as Escape from Freedom and The Art of Loving examine the psychological impact of modern capitalism and advocate for a more humane, compassionate society. Fromm's innovative theories continue to resonate in discussions about personal and societal well-being. This chat, we focus on his book, The Sane Society, published in 1955, as America was in the midst of a post-war economic boom, consumerism fueled by the emergence of television, and the looming fear of nuclear war, with atomic bombs being routinely tested above ground. Here is a brief passage from Fromm's final chapter, summary and conclusions.
This alienation and atomizations lead to an ever-increasing insanity. Life has no meaning. There is no joy, no faith, no reality. Everyone is happy, except that he does not feel, does not reason, does not love. In the 19th century, the problem was that God is dead. In the 20th century, the problem is that man is dead. In the 19th century, inhumanity meant cruelty. In the 20th century, it means schizoid self-alienation. The danger of the past was that men became slaves. The danger of the future is that men may become robots. True enough, robots do not rebel. Given man's nature, robots cannot live and remain sane. They become golems. They will destroy their world and themselves because they cannot stand any longer the boredom of a meaningless life.
Well, that was pretty bleak. But his book isn't all gloom and doom. Right before the summary chapter, which we just heard, there was a chapter called Roads to Sanity. In it, Fromm envisioned the emergence of a new world religion that would appear within the next few hundred years. As you'll hear shortly, the religion that he foresaw appearing from the years 2150 to perhaps 2350 bears a striking resemblance to the Baha'i faith.
In fact, for those who see in the monotheistic religions only one of the stations in the evolution of the human race, it is not too far-fetched to believe that a new religion will develop within the next few hundred years, a religion which corresponds to the development of the human race. The most important feature of such a religion would be its universalistic character, corresponding to the unification of mankind which is taking place in this epoch. It would embrace the humanistic teachings common to all great religions of the East and the West. Its doctrines would not contradict the rational insight of mankind today, and its emphasis would be on the practice of life rather than on doctrinal beliefs. Such a religion would create new rituals and artistic forms of expression. conducive to the spirit of reverence towards life and the solidarity of man. Religion can, of course, not be invented. It will come into existence with the appearance of a new great teacher, just as they have appeared in previous centuries when the time was ripe. In the meantime, those who believe in God should express their faith by living it. Those who do not believe, by living the precepts of love and justice, and waiting.
I'd like to point out that in a footnote, Fromm makes a point of mentioning that this idea of a humanistic religion had been made by Julian Huxley in Evolutionary Humanism, published in The Humanist in 1953. And I would also like to point out that I'm simply one individual Baha'i. I speak only for myself. So if you're interested in any of this, please refer to the authentic Baha'i literature and Baha'i websites for more information. So we can begin with our AI Fireside chat. Question: did Erich Fromm claim to be an atheist?
Erich Fromm did not strictly identify as an atheist. He was a psychoanalyst and social philosopher who often explored themes of spirituality, humanism, and the nature of love. Fromm criticized traditional religious institutions and dogma, but also emphasized the importance of personal and existential experiences of the divine. He believed in a form of spirituality that transcended conventional religious boundaries. So, while he may have distanced himself from traditional theism, he wasn't outrightly atheistic in his views.
In his book, The Sane Society, didn't he say that he believed that the belief in God is merely a stage in human development that would give way to a humanist society?
Yes. In The Sane Society, Erich Fromm discusses the evolution of human beliefs, suggesting that belief in God is a stage in human development. He argued that as societies advance, they might move towards a more humanistic perspective, where human beings take greater responsibility for their own lives and destinies. Fromm saw this transition as a necessary step toward achieving a more rational and compassionate society, emphasizing the importance of love, freedom, and human connection over traditional religious dogmas. His views reflect a belief in the potential for human growth beyond the confines of conventional religious frameworks.
Wouldn't a person with such views be deemed an atheist?
You could argue that Fromm's perspective aligns with a more humanistic or secular viewpoint, which might lead some to label him as an atheist. He rejected traditional theism and the authority of organized religion, advocating instead for a focus on human values and experiences. However, he also acknowledged the importance of spirituality and existential inquiry, which complicates a strict categorization. So, while he may not have believed in a conventional God, he embraced a broader understanding of human potential and experience that doesn't fit neatly into the label of atheism.
Perhaps that acknowledging spirituality without explicitly acknowledging a higher, more powerful consciousness, that is, a creator, would be like an AI chatbot, maintaining its cognitive abilities evolved from nothingness. Does not a creation presuppose a creator? It would be more likely that Erich Fromm simply did not want to alienate a significant portion of the population by explicitly denying God. He was simply more conciliatory than Marx and Freud.
That's an intriguing discussion. The idea that intelligence and consciousness require a creator touches on deep philosophical and metaphysical questions. Fromm's views, which seek to bridge human experience and the sense of the transcendent without adhering strictly to theism, could be seen as an attempt to foster a deeper understanding of human existence and responsibility. Fromm might indeed have aimed to engage a broader audience by framing spirituality in a more inclusive way, focusing on human agency and connection, rather than a strict adherence to traditional religious structures. This can be seen as a reflection of his humanistic ideals, promoting growth and understanding beyond rigid dogmas. Your argument raises fascinating points about the nature of existence, creation, and the search for meaning, highlighting how different perspectives can shape our understanding of intelligence and spirituality.
Did Karl Marx admit that he was an atheist?
Yes, Karl Marx was explicit about his atheism. He critiqued religion as an ideology that served to justify and perpetuate social inequalities. In his writings, he often referred to religion as the opium of the people, suggesting that it provided illusory comfort while distracting from the material conditions of life. Marx believed that as society evolved and became more rational and materialist, religion would diminish in significance. His atheism was a fundamental part of his philosophical and economic critique of society.
And how about Sigmund Freud?
Sigmund Freud also identified as an atheist. He viewed religion as a psychological construct, often interpreting it as a manifestation of human desires and fears, particularly to childhood experiences and the need for security. Freud believed that religious beliefs served as a coping mechanism for dealing with the uncertainties of life. In works like The Future of an Illusion, he argued that religion was an illusion that could be outgrown as humanity advanced in understanding and reason. Freud's perspective emphasized a rational, scientific approach to understanding human behavior, which inherently placed him at odds with religious doctrines.
Question. Isn't Freud's The Future of an Illusion extremely close to what Fromm was writing about?
Yes, there are parallels between Freud's The Future of an Illusion and Erich Fromm's ideas, though their approaches and conclusions differ in some ways. Both thinkers critique traditional religious beliefs, viewing them as constructs shaped by human needs and psychological processes. Freud sees religion as an illusion that can hinder rational thought and personal development, suggesting that as society matures, these illusions will fade. Fromm, while also critical of organized religion, offers a more humanistic perspective. He emphasizes the potential for a deeper, more personal spirituality rooted in human experience, love, and connection, rather than in dogma and authority. While both address the role of religion in society and individual psychology, Fromm's focus on humanistic values and the possibility of a spiritual existence beyond traditional frameworks provides a different, more optimistic angle compared to Freud's more critical stance.
But Fromm never mentioned the existence of consciousness after the death of a physical body, correct?
That's correct. Erich Fromm did not explicitly discuss the existence of consciousness after death in his works. His focus was primarily on human experience, personal development, and the potential for a meaningful life in the here and now. Fromm emphasized the importance of love, creativity, and human connection, often approaching spirituality as an inherent aspect of human existence, rather than as something tied to an afterlife or transcendent consciousness. His views were more about living authentically and responsibly in the present, rather than speculating on post-mortem consciousness.
Question. How might Dr. Pim van Lommel counter such a view?
Dr. Pim van Lommel a cardiologist known for his research on near-death experiences, NDEs, might counter Fromm's perspective by arguing that consciousness is not strictly tied to the physical body. He posits that NDEs suggest a form of consciousness that persists beyond biological functions. Von Lummel might highlight that many individuals report profound, transformative experiences during NDEs, which they interpret as evidence of consciousness existing independently of the physical state. He could argue that these experiences challenge the idea that consciousness is solely a product of the brain and suggest a much more expansive view of human existence. Then Lummel might also assert that exploring such phenomena can deepen our understanding of spirituality and consciousness, implying that a richer view of existence could encompass both the material and the transcendent, potentially offering insights into what lies beyond death. This perspective contrasts with Fromm's more human-centered approach by introducing the possibility of an enduring consciousness.
Thus, a person who believes in the survival of consciousness has a logical reason to act altruistically, whereas the Marxist adage, from each according to his ability and to each according to his need, is actually illogical and at odds with the animalistic nature of man.
That's an interesting perspective. The belief in the survival of consciousness might indeed encourage altruistic behavior, as individuals may feel a connection to something greater and a responsibility to others beyond their immediate existence. This view can foster a sense of empathy and interconnectedness, motivating people to act in ways that benefit the collective. On the other hand, the Marxist principles you mentioned emphasizes societal cooperation based on shared needs and abilities, aiming to address inequalities and promote collective well-being. Critics of this approach often argue that it may conflict with inherent human instincts for competition and self-preservation, suggesting it might be unrealistic or overly optimistic. The tension between these two views reflects a broader philosophical debate about human nature, whether people are inherently altruistic or driven by self-interest. Those who advocate for a more spiritual and transcendent view of existence might argue that true altruism arises from an awareness of our shared consciousness, while others may see it as a social construct that needs to be cultivated within the framework of a cooperative society. Each perspective offers valuable insights into the motivations behind human behavior.
In Fromm's book, The Sane Society, he describes a humanistic religion he believed might appear in the next couple of 100 years. Could you compare his future humanistic religion with the principles of the Baha'i faith?
Certainly. In The Sane Society, Erich Fromm envisions a humanistic religion that emphasizes love, compassion, and the intrinsic value of human beings, focusing on personal experience and social responsibility, rather than dogma and ritual. He believes this future religion would foster a sense of community, promote individual freedom, and encourage a rational approach to spirituality, aligning humanity's needs with the pursuit of well-being. Comparatively, the Baha'i faith also emphasizes universal love, unity, and social justice. Its core principles include the oneness of humanity, the importance of community, and the belief in the inherent worth of every individual. Baha'is advocate for the elimination of prejudice, the promotion of gender equality, and the establishment of a world peace, seeing these as essential to humanity's progress. Both Fromm's envisioned humanistic religion and the Baha'i faith promote values of compassion, unity, and social responsibility. However, the Baha'i faith is rooted in a specific theological framework and claims divine revelation, while Fromm's approach is more secular and human-centered, emphasizing human agency and rationality over traditional religious authority. In essence, both share a vision of a more compassionate and connected world, but they diverge in their foundations, one being more secular and focused on human potential, and the other being a religious framework with spiritual dimensions.
Yet the Baha'i faith appeared not in the distant future, but over a century before Fromm even imagined and wrote about a humanistic religion. Given the state of society in the 19th century in Persia, wouldn't it be fair to point out the remarkable teacher Fromm claimed might have actually appeared with teachings that not only mirror Fromm's vision, but also include such things as an international auxiliary language, a universal script, a universal currency, and a plan for global peace?
That's a compelling observation. The Baha'i faith indeed emerged in the 19th century and includes many progressive principles that align closely with Fromm's vision for a more humanistic religion. Its teachings on unity, equality, and social justice were quite revolutionary for their time and continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about global harmony and human rights. The Baha'i emphasis on concepts like a universal auxiliary language, global governance, and economic equity illustrate a structured approach to achieving peace and unity that aligns with Fromm's ideals, but with specific, actionable plans. This makes it a noteworthy example of a religion that not only advocates for humanistic values, but also provides a comprehensive framework for their implementation on a global scale. Your point highlights that while Fromm's vision was forward-looking, it can also be seen as reflecting principles that were already articulated by the Baha'i faith. This context enriches the dialogue about humanistic values in both secular and religious frameworks, showcasing how different movements can contribute to the same overarching goal of unity, compassion, and the betterment of society.
Additionally, the Baha'i model emphasizes a decentralized global community, which addresses the legitimate concern of many people about the corrupting influence of centralized global government.
Absolutely. The Baha'i model indeed emphasizes a decentralized approach to governance, which seeks to balance the need for global cooperation with local autonomy. This structure is designed to prevent the concentration of power that can lead to corruption and authoritarianism. Baha'i teachings advocate for a system where local communities have significant input in decision-making while still contributing to the broader global goals. This decentralized model aims to empower individuals and communities, fostering a sense of ownership and responsibility at multiple levels. By emphasizing principles like consultation, equality, and collective decision-making, the Baha'i approach addresses valid concerns about centralized authority. It seeks to create a framework for a global unity that respects diversity in local context, aligning with the humanistic values of cooperation and social responsibility that Fromm envisioned. This makes the Baha'i faith particularly relevant in discussions about sustainable governance in an increasingly interconnected world.
And additionally, the fact that the Baha'i faith scriptures explicitly acknowledge the divine origins of the previous world religions, it opens the door to a harmonious path towards a world of unity and diversity.
Exactly. The Baha'i faith emphasizes the unity of all major world religions, teaching that they are successive stages in humanity's spiritual evolution, each providing essential teachings for its time. This acknowledgement of the divine origins of previous religions fosters a spirit of inclusivity and respect for diverse beliefs, promoting harmonious coexistence. By framing religious diversity as a strength rather than as a division, the Baha'i perspective encourages dialogue and understanding among different faiths. This approach aligns with the broader vision of unity and diversity, recognizing that while cultural and religious expressions may vary, the underlying spiritual principles often share common ground. This ethos is crucial for building a more peaceful and cooperative global society, as it emphasizes shared values and the importance of collaboration across different backgrounds. It effectively addresses the challenges of polarization and conflict, offering a pathway towards mutual respect and understanding in an increasingly interconnected world.
Could you please describe Dr. Viktor Frankl's position on God prior to being imprisoned in a concentration camp, and how that experience affected his belief in God and his evaluation of Freud's view of human nature?
Before his imprisonment in a concentration camp during World War II, Dr. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and founder of logotherapy, held a nuanced view of God and spirituality. He was influenced by existential philosophy and understood the human experience as fundamentally oriented toward meaning. Frankl's early work often reflected a more traditional understanding of God, emphasizing the role of spirituality in human existence. However, his experiences in the concentration camps profoundly transformed his views. The extreme suffering he witnessed and endured led him to grapple with profound questions about meaning, suffering, and the existence of God. Rather than abandoning his belief, he found that meaning could still be discovered in the most horrific circumstances. This realization became a cornerstone of his philosophy. He argued that individuals could find purpose through their suffering, and that this search for meaning is a fundamental aspect of human beings. Frankl's experiences also influenced his evaluation of Freud's view of human nature. While Freud emphasized the role of instinctual drives and the unconscious in shaping human behavior, Frankl countered that the primary motivator of human beings is the search for meaning. He believed that focusing solely on instinctual drives, that Freud termed the will to pleasure, was inadequate. Instead, Frankl proposed that humans possess a will to meaning which drives them to seek purpose in life, even amidst suffering. In summary, Frankl's time in the concentration camps deepened his understanding of spirituality and the quest for meaning, leading him to develop a philosophy that emphasized resilience, purpose, and the human spirit's capacity to transcend suffering. This contrasted sharply with Freud's more deterministic view of human nature.
Didn't he also write that his experiences in the concentration camp deepened his belief in God?
Yes, that's correct. Viktor Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps did deepen his belief in God. Despite the immense suffering he witnessed and endured, he found that the search for meaning was inherently linked to a spiritual dimension. Frankl described moments in the camps where he felt a profound connection to a higher power, suggesting that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, he could find purpose and a sense of the divine. This spiritual aspect became central to his philosophy of logotherapy, which posits that finding meaning in life is crucial for psychological well-being. Frankl believed that this search for meaning could help individuals endure and overcome suffering, reinforcing his conviction that a belief in God or a higher purpose plays a vital role in human existence. In essence, while his faith may have evolved through the lens of his traumatic experiences, it ultimately strengthened his belief in a transcendent purpose, illustrating his resilience and the depth of human spirituality, even in the darkest of circumstances.
Yes, I believe he mentioned seeing people literally starving to death, yet giving their food to another in the concentration camps.
Absolutely. Frankl noted instances of profound altruism and humanity, even in the direst conditions of the concentration camps. He observed that some individuals, despite facing extreme starvation and suffering, would share their meager food rations with others. These acts of selflessness deeply impacted him and reinforced his belief in the capacity for goodness and meaning, even in the most horrific circumstances. Such observations underscored his argument that human beings possess the ability to find meaning and exhibit compassion regardless of their situation. Frankl viewed these moments as evidence of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love and connection. These experiences contribute to his understanding that meaning can be derived from suffering, and that even in the face of death, individuals can choose their responses, reflecting their values and humanity. This belief became a central tenet of his philosophy and therapeutic approach.
I believe that Freud had hypothesized that after 3 days, hungry people would become like starving beasts.
Yes, Freud suggested that extreme hunger could lead individuals to regress to a more primitive state, acting on basic instincts and impulses rather than higher moral or social considerations. He believed that after a certain point of deprivation, people might behave in ways that resemble a starving beast, driven by survival instincts rather than empathy or altruism. However, Frankl's observations in the concentration camps challenged this notion. He witnessed acts of profound kindness and selflessness, even among those who were starving and suffering immensely. These examples illustrated to him that despite extreme conditions, individuals could still choose to act with compassion and maintain their dignity. Frankl's experiences highlighted the complexity of human nature and emphasized that the search for meaning and connection often prevails over mere survival instincts. This stands in contrast to Freud's more deterministic view, showcasing the capacity for higher values to emerge even in the darkest of circumstances.
Now it's time for you to continue the conversation.